Hi everyone and welcome back. In today's video, I will be completing the remaining part of the lesson on tides. Intertidal range. This is the difference in the level of water when high tide and low tide occur in the sea. We also call this range as the tidal range. Now, in the open seas, that is in the middle of the ocean, you will find the difference in the range between high tide and low tide as about 30 centimeters. That means you won't find a drastic difference there. But as we move towards the coastal areas, you will find this range that it will keep on increasing. Now look at the given picture. The area outlined in a dark shade shows the coastal parts of India or the coast of Peninsular India. In these areas, the difference in the tidal range is about 100 to 150 centimeters for most of its part. This is a picture of the map showing the Bay of Fundy. The Bay of Fundy is located in between the two provinces of Canada, that is New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. The Bay of Fundy also touches a portion of the US, and it lies along the Atlantic coast of North America. The Bay of Fundy is observed to have the world's largest tidal range, that is about 1,600 centimeters. In India, the highest tidal range is in the Gulf of Khambat, which is about 1,100 centimeters. Let us see what are the effects of tides. Now, when there is a high tide, the fishes tend to move into the creeks, and this helps the fishermen in their activity of fishing. Tides help to clear the waste from the sea. It helps in preventing the accumulation of waste in the waterbeds. Tides restrict the accumulation of sediments on the ports. In some cases, the loading and unloading of cargo in certain ports can be influenced by the tides. Like if a ship has to be loaded to its maximum capacity, the operators might wait for high tide to ensure that the ship has enough water underneath to support additional weight. During high tides, water rushes into the harbors. This helps ships to enter and exit the harbors safely without encountering any loss. Now, tides can cause the depth of water in a port to vary significantly. So, it can make it sometimes difficult for ships to enter and leave the ports, and it can also restrict the types of certain ships. During high tides, seawater can be stored in salt pans from which salt can be obtained. Also, tidal force can be used to generate electricity. A lack of an understanding of the timing of high and low tides can cause accidents to swimmers entering the sea. The tides help in maintaining the mangroves and the coastal biodiversity. Now, we have learned that the timings of the tides change daily, and also that the tides are a continuously occurring phenomena. So, how do the tides work? After reaching the maximum water level during a high tide, the low tide sets in. Similarly, after reaching the lowest water level during a low tide, the high tide sets in. Let us see, why do the timings of the tides change daily? Let us understand this with the help of the diagram, considering the given scale, that is the rotational speed of the earth. 1 degree is equal to 4 minutes. So time taken for 12 degree 30 inches is 50 minutes. Now in the diagram, point P will face a high tide as it is directly opposite the moon. And since point F is also on the opposite side of point P, that is on the back side, F will also face a high tide at the same time. This is due to the Earth's centrifugal force. And while the Earth is rotating continuously, it will take 24 hours for point P to come back to its original position. And if point P takes a 180-degree rotation, it will take half the time of the duration, that is 12 hours. And as you can see in the diagram, point P then will be at F's position, and the same change will also occur when we consider point F. But now at this time, when point P is at F's position and F is at P's position, F will not be experiencing a high tide as point P was experiencing 12 hours before. Why does this happen? It is simply because now, in the meantime, the moon also, due to its revolution, would move about 6 degrees and 15 inches. So it will take more 25 minutes for F to reach at P's original position and be directly opposite the moon. So now it is after 12 hours and 25 minutes, F is directly opposite the moon, and it will experience a high tide, and point P, which is to the opposite side of point F, will also experience a high tide. Then later again, after 12 hours and 25 minutes, point P1 will experience a high tide, and opposite to it, point F1 will also experience a high tide. So in this way, daily the earth faces two high tides and two low tides. The time between two high tides and two low tides is 12 hours and 25 minutes. Now if you blow air over a hot milk or tea, what can you see? You see that there are ripples generated on the milk or the tea. In the same way, in the sea, because of the force of the wind, the water in the sea appears to be moving. The sea water gets pushed and ripples are generated on the surface of the sea water. These are called waves. The sea water moves up and down or slightly forward and backward due to the waves. The waves bring the energy contained in them to the coast. They break in the shallow waters near the coast. Large or small waves are formed continuously at the surface of the sea. Generation of waves is a natural and regularly occurring phenomena too. The seawater gets pushed up and down because of the wind. The raised up portion of a wave is called a crest, and the depressed one is called a trough. If a strong wind is blowing in one direction, large waves are generated. The vertical distance between the crest and the trough is called the amplitude of the wave, whereas the distance between two successive crests or troughs is called the wavelength. The wavelength, its amplitude, and the velocity depends on the velocity of the wind. If we stand at the coast, we feel the waves are coming towards the coast. If a floating object is thrown at a distance in the sea, we find the object moving up and down at the same place. It does not come to the coast. It means the water forming the wave also does not come to the coast. Remember that the water in the wave does not move. What moves is the energy. The main reason of wave generation is wind, but at times, due to earthquakes or volcanic eruptions occurring below the floor of the sea, waves get generated. Such waves assume a great height in the shallow waters near the coast. These waves are very destructive. They cause huge loss of property and life. These waves are called tsunamis. In 2004, tsunami waves were generated because of the earthquake that took place near Sumatra island of Indonesia. They devastated the east coast of India as well as of Sri Lanka. Always remember, if earthquake occurs in the ocean, the coastal areas face a risk of tsunamis. In such cases, it is better to go away from the coast or towards higher altitudes. This way, loss of life can be avoided. With this, we complete the lesson on tides. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and stay blessed.